Welcome to another live edition of Closers, brought to you by Man Cave Sports. I am the DA David Artsma here. Welcome you guys here. This is awesome doing this show live. We're now live on Facebook and YouTube. We're always available on anywhere you want to find a podcast. Just look it up. We are there. And also make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, make sure you leave comments. All of those help us get our message out to you, get you better content, so you get more of our content, and the more of your people you tell about our show, the more we get out there, the more we can keep bringing this to you. And without any further ado, I want to bring on my partner, the man, the myth, the legend, James Gludianos.
Yes, the legend in my own mind that I am. How are you, Ards?
I am good. I'm looking at your jerseys in the background. I like, obviously, the Griffey jersey, Ohtani, Angels Ohtani jersey. It is going to become a relic one of these days. And a DeGrom.
Yeah.
Jacob DeGrom.
Yeah, I don't have a Seaver, so I might as well put the second best pitcher that the Mets have ever had. And he was quite incredible. And before anybody asks, no, I don't want DeGrom back with the Mets. I know everybody said the Rangers are looking to shed payroll. Let him stay in Texas. We're good.
Are they looking to shed payroll? How are they looking to shed payroll? Because I thought maybe like actually not paying Verlander and not paying Scherzer might be getting the best way to get rid of payroll, because they're not even on the team anymore.
No, I was talking about Texas. There are rumors that Texas is looking to shed payroll and get rid of players like DeGrom.
Well, that's right. That makes sense. To me, DeGrom is one of the greatest pitchers when he is healthy that has ever stepped on the field by far. Like, his stuff is just different. It's just different. I don't know how you explain it. It's just different. It's just the dude's not on the field and you can't rely on him.
No, you can't. So why the heck would you take him on?
I don't know. I keep touching this. I keep messing around with this. I like it. It's like my little toy. It's right here.
Your wife said the same thing.
Yeah, probably. So speaking of free agents, now is one of the best times of all year. I know we've talked about this on the show last week. This is James's like favorite time of the year, or we talked about we're talking about basically every single time we get on, because James just wants to get to free agency. And that is his absolute favorite time, because he is the master of figuring out where everybody goes and all of their contracts and everything. But the biggest fish in the sea, in a monster ocean this year, a lot of free agents, but the biggest by far, the great white out there, Juan Soto. News out there that he met with the Mets over the weekend. Let's not jump too quickly with this, because he's already met with the Blue Jays, the Red Sox. He's the Yankees. I don't know if they're going to do an official meeting or how they're going to handle that. The Dodgers will get in there, and pretty much anybody with a checkbook that is available to sell half of, I don't know, their franchise will meet with Juan Soto and trying to give him that half of the franchise, which I'm sure is just a horrible deal with him. James, I'm sure the question you want me to ask, I'm just going to give you a softball, is how long do we have to wait till he becomes a Met?
It's going to be a little while, because you know that his agent Scott Boras is going to go to every single team in baseball and say, this is what the Mets are offering. Can you top it? Can you top it? Can you top it? Until everybody says no, and then he'll end up with the Mets. That's pretty much the way he works. But that's why we're going to have our first guest today in a little while. The guy that I aspire to be, Mr. Jim Duquette, when he's ready to go, I'll be very happy, and we can ask him about all that stuff, and we can ask him what it's like negotiating with a guy like Scott Boras. I'm sure he's run into him a couple times, because after last year's debacle that he had, a lot of people are saying that he might have lost his fastball.
No, it's interesting. He had so many issues last year and getting dropped by players that this is, I'm sure there's a lot of pressure on him. A lot of pressure to deliver. I mean, when you have deals like Ohtani out there and what he got, the Judge deal, and you're looking at some of these monster contracts, and for all intents and purposes, Juan Soto should be right there with all of them, if not better than Judge. It should be higher than Judge because of his age and youth and all that stuff and experience already at this point. But he's behind the eight ball. Like the barrel of the gun is facing him, and if I'm a free agent, I am watching this very closely. If he's my agent, I've got free agency coming up here in a couple of years. I am dead eye watching this and seeing how this transpires. And because I don't want to be one of those guys sitting there and watching spring training happen, knowing I am too good to not be on a team.
It's interesting. I don't think Juan Soto is going to be the benchmark that you think it's going to be. I think more so, if I'm a free agent, I want to watch Pete Alonso's contract negotiations because that's a guy who isn't in that perfect storm like you have, Juan Soto, who's 26 years old. He's got years and years ahead of him. I'd rather see what happens with Pete Alonso to see if Boris still has his fastball. But we can certainly ask our guest.
Yes, and our guest is here. We'd like to welcome on our first live guest that we have had, Mr. Jim Duquette.
Wow.
Jim, dude, I got to do this. This is my first time hosting. So XM Radio host. So we worked together with XM Radio down in spring training and doing shows together. Former GM of James's Mets. I apologize for that one. I do have to say it.
Can we get Scott Kazmir back?
I saw James at the NLCS he was outside. We were in the booth there, and it was like totally unexpected. And yet you had your hood up. Did you have a winter hat on that day too? I feel like you were like incognito. And the only way I could see it was you kind of pulled your like hoodie back, whatever. And I'm like, James, what's up, buddy?
Well, since the show started, I've become a big star, so I've got to go incognito everywhere I go, Jim.
Of course. I mean, that's just you. You are a star in New York. David doesn't know it yet, but he walks the streets in New York with a disguise just because.
It's smart. Yeah. It truly is smart. I can't imagine living in New York, that life James is living right now, just being just a stud. Everybody wants him. Everybody's looking at him saying, I want to be that guy on closers. Okay, this is James's favorite time of year, the free agency. Once a hot stove starts going, he is actually weirdly actually pretty good at figuring out where players are going and contracts and stuff. Does this excite you too? Is this that part of your life that you've lived and being a GM that excites you, or is this just part of the gig?
No, I like this time of the year. The reason why I love baseball in the sport itself is it's a 12-month a year type of arrangement, and each year has its own cycle, right? So now we're in that winter season where we're talking contracts and team building and trades, all those things that take a lot of time and effort from the general manager. And yeah, I really enjoy it. I enjoy the trade rumors, any of the predictions where it comes to the teams, the dollar amounts. I mean, that's stuff that I enjoyed even when I was in the front office negotiating them. I hated it when we didn't come up with a player or two. But yeah, I mean, that's part of the adrenaline of the position.
Yeah, like I said to you before, I wish I could grow up and to be Jim Duquette. I've always wanted to be a GM. It's just the coolest job on the planet. So if you were the GM of the New York Mets right now, and you know that your boss, Steve Cohen, wants Juan Soto, how do you go about getting him without Scott Boras talking to other teams?
Well, there's no way you can do that. I mean, it's a you realize in the negotiation that he's going to try to use those teams and leverage those teams against you.
Yeah.
You know that Steve Cohen has a good relationship there with Scott, so you want to include him in all these, and wherever Steve can be helpful, I think it's incumbent that you use him in that regard. He is a great resource. He's negotiated a lot of deals. Obviously, he's a very successful guy. So I think you're kind of doing this in tandem, together if you're David Stearns. And, the hard part is like, okay, what's going to be the difference, or we'll call it the delta between what you have to pay and what the Yankees have to pay? Because I really think it's going to be a two-team race more than anything else. What's that? The Yankees, if it's close, I'm hearing he'll go back to the Yankees. So how much more do you have to pay, as a premium to get Soto in a Mets uniform? That's a hard question to answer, and you're constantly trying to figure that out.
if you're okay, let's say this, you're calling it a two-team race. So let's use as an example, let's use the Yankees. You've got more issues than right field, right? So you've got maybe a third base issue, you have first base issue, you got a starting pitching issue, you got definitely a reliever or two issue. Do you start going out and engaging in conversations with other players as well and start trying to sign some of those other players, or do you have to pause that in case Soto signs you and you're taking all those financial resources and you have to change all of that? Are you proactive on all the markets trying to bring players in, or are you kind of trying to just keep those teams on a leash or those players on a leash in case you get Soto?
Yeah. So on the Yankees side, really this fits for the Mets too. If Soto's your prize, obviously you're all in there. But you better not put all of your eggs in that basket,
right?
Because one team's going to be disappointed, right? So you have to plan for a plan B and C and D. And part of that is understanding your internal options and who can fit what roles. And then, all right, hey, and you're reaching out to, let's say in the Yankees case, you're reaching out to, in my mind, Bregman or Adames, because they could use third base, right? They, trying to check and see if Torres, where he is, to decide if you want to have him back at second base. You're having those kind of you're looking and trying to keep an eye on the market for Santander in the outfield. So those are guys, and they're all, Alonso or Christian Walker are, potential candidates for the Yankees too. So I think all of those are in play. And as you guys know, this offseason evolves. It's a very fluid situation. So some guys are coming off the board before you exactly where Soto is going to land, and that leaves you in a really uncomfortable position. It's kind of what Scott Boras wants to happen, so that you have to overpay even more for your plan A because plan B and C are gone. So that's the thing that you're trying to push this Soto thing to a conclusion if you can, and keep those other balls up in the air.
Duke, do you think that Boras is going to be a little more difficult to deal with this year after, let's call it what it was? It was a debacle last year for his free agents. You think he's going to say, you know what, I've got the hammer right now, and I'm going to prove that I am the big dog again?
I mean, I think that, there's an ego in any part of the sport that you have to keep, kind of balance or maintain. And I think from his side of things, he's trying to get the most dollars, as always, for his players. He's trying to do the best he can for them. Obviously, it didn't work out very well. But, I think also you look at it realistically, some of those players had flaws to their game that, prevented them from getting top dollar. He has some of the top position players at each position in the sport. So he's going to do well. He's going to do well with Corbin Burns. He's going to do well with Kikuchi and Alonso and Bregman and Soto. He controls, I think, 40% of the top 15, I think, somewhere in that range, free agents. So, I don't know necessarily that if he looks at it like that, he obviously, the year it was 2019 going into 2020 where he signed Strasburg, Cole, and Rendon. And I don't keep track of these, but it's probably an unofficial record for the amount of money that was signed in the winter. And I think he's going to surpass that this year.
I imagine he's definitely going to surpass that without a doubt. I don't even think that's going to be hard to surpass that this year. If you're the Yankees, and I want to bring this back, you kind of brought up some of these players that I've talked about on here is Santander, like Christian Walker, Bregman, Snell, and a reliever. You could almost split up with those five players for the amount of money, maybe, like in a long run, and that's going to take to get a Soto back.
Right.
Do you end up being a better team by bringing all of those type of players? I mean, and you can drop a Christian Walker, maybe it's an Alonso, and you can grab, there's little things there, and obviously move Chisholm back to a little bit more of a natural position. Are you a better team versus just going after the biggest dog? And don't get me wrong, the best player, right? But I think they can be better.
Listen, I think generally I would rather spread out the dollar amount and kind of take the portfolio approach that you're suggesting, the way I describe it, it's because you can limit your risk. What if Soto gets injured next year?
Right.
And that's where you've invested all of your money. Okay, now your plan's gone down the drain, right? And even if, and injuries are going to be a part of it, but even if you had injuries to, let's say, 4 or 5 of the guys that you were talking about signing, then you're still protected to some degree. There's a couple of issues that I have with that. First off, you can't assume that all of them are going to want to sign with your team, right? So of those 5, if you're lucky, you get 2 of them, maybe 3. But it's it's not that easy just to get them to convince them to come. Secondly, there's no guarantee they can play in New York or handle New York. I mean, Yankees know this as recently as Sonny Gray. We had with the Mets, we had players too. I think the last one I can remember didn't really work out for the Mets was after me. It was Jason Bay. He didn't. So there are guys like that just can't handle New York, and so you kind of run into that too. The guy, Juan Soto can handle New York, and the other third aspect is, when you're facing off, you guys both know this, David, pitching, like not everybody can hit good pitching in the postseason like you're seeing all the time. You're seeing everybody's best all the time, and most of the time they're rested, or if they're not rested, they're giving you, max effort. And finding those guys that can hit that type of pitching, like Juan Soto can, there's just not a lot of them out there, and that's why he's getting paid that kind of money.
I think he showed it a little bit, right?
Jim, I know we have very little time left with you. Who's the number 2 guy that everybody's going after right now? Is it Roki Sasaki? Is it Willy Adames? I heard a lot about Willy Adames the last few days.
Adames is getting a lot of attention, obviously for his position at short, but he's also willing to move to third or second. Sasaki, I feel like he's in some ways, he's a bit of a draft,
he's like a unicorn.
Experience, he's a unicorn, but he's an experienced college guy that could come right to the big leagues and he could produce for you. But you're gonna have to be protecting him. Gonna have to develop him too. Like there's some things you have to be careful with him workload wise. But I mean, he has tremendous upside. I think those are the 2 individuals in particular. And Corbin Burns, of course, is going to be in that mix. But that's what makes this exciting to me is you got 3 or 4 or 5 guys that are all quality that are really going to be talked about a lot.
When you're a GM and you're looking at a Blake Snell, right? Obviously, we know he definitely didn't hurt his drafts or his free agency stock this year. I don't know. He helped it. Just depends on what level, because he did finally pass that 5-inning mark. Let's just call it that. We all know what it is. Do you have reservations, though, as being a GM and negotiating with him, knowing the type of deal he's going to want? He's going to want either a massive deal or basically what he signed with the Giants with more money. It's just, and he's going to take an out. Like he's already shown, like the moment he had success, he took an out. And right. I understand why, but does that make it tougher as a GM to look at him and say, where's the confidence that you're going to want to stay here and pitch in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years?
Sure. So I used to not like the out clause. Like if I was making the commitment dollar wise, I want you to make the commitment back, but I don't mind giving the out clauses now. Kind of like what the Yankees had with Garrett Cole, like, okay, we want you, but if you're going to try to, negotiate for more money, all right, go ahead. We know you're 34 years old. Good luck going out there and getting 4 more years for what we're paying you. Things like that. So, Snell's a different case because, he's still, there's always that, okay, never threw a no-hitter. Now he has, complete game. Now he has, but it's not enough for me. It's like far and few between, right? He's got the book cover and he's got the end of the book. Those are fantastic. And in between those pages, the story is mixed, right? So some of it's good, some of it's not so good. It's like, if you're writing a book, there's like there's stories that are half finished. In the middle there's 120 innings. That's not a full story for me. That's not a full season. You're right. You need 180 innings, 160 somewhere in that range. So with that though, that whatever he's out there for, it's going to be electric, right? So I feel like there's teams that know him better, like San Francisco, that would have the advantage and be able to, find a spot for him, but, and utilize him better than most and be willing to maybe stretch a little bit more. So I don't know. We'll see if he ends up. San Francisco needs pitching. They need him. I would love to see him go back there. I think that was a good fit.
Right, and they have the history, so that's not the worst fit in the world. But Jim, I know you got to get going, so really want to appreciate you coming on. Again, you will find Jim Duquette on XM Radio, MLB Network on XM Radio. Awesome guy, very knowledgeable, and James just gets to give you crap every single time we see you, so that's fine.
And the first live guest, which I cannot believe. Yeah. I love that. All right.
You're the best, Duke. Thanks so much, guys. Buddy.
Talk to you later.
Thank you. And there again, Jim Duquette, awesome guy. Awesome to work with. It's fun to work with. I was in spring training last year, so 23, and we got to do the, I believe we did the Mariners, the Guardians, the A's,
the training camp tour,
the spring training camp tour. So I spent like hours upon hours with him. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, super nice guy, no ego, nice to everybody he works with. Really one of the gentlemen of the game. I absolutely love Jimmy.
Yes, super knowledgeable too. So like that's one of the cool things is like he stayed in the game. He obviously was a part of a lot of huge deals with the Mets. Super big time with the Mets, and then has stayed in the game so much, and you can tell it's like it's still there. He still wants to go with them, and so I got to do this. Raul jumped on and left a comment on us, said, "Let's go Mets." So that's pretty cool. Seeing, getting to talk to Mets GM and Raul. Thank you for being on here.
I'm with Raul. Let's go Mets.
let's go Mets.
I got to be honest, though, Dave, the most beautiful you ever looked was in a Mets uniform.
I will say this. There was a time I gave up some runs and I was really pissed. But
yeah, I was in the stands.
The team, you're probably there all the time when I'm giving up runs. The team photographer got a picture of me walking in the dugout, and Andrea thinks that's one of the hottest I've ever looked. And of course, when I'm at my absolute peak anger, pissed off, feeling like I just gave up the game, I'm losing the game for the Mets. Andrea's like, "Yeah, that's when I want you." Not when I'm decent. My motivation gets split sometimes on that.
It's because your wife is a hornball, bro. Doesn't matter what's going on. If you look good, she don't care about the score. She just wants you.
Right? Those are not necessarily the worst thing ever. No, but again, there's some cool things to talk about there. I mean, we hit this with Roki Sasaki. One of the neat things with him is like, and I said kind of unicorn because he's a free agent, but he's like the cheapest free agent in the world. Like he'd be getting $25-30 million a year.
Oh yeah,
it's going to cost teams a couple million. Like it's so interesting that there's this guy out there that's cheap, and every single team can jump up there and take a chance at him and have a realistic chance. Like, he is the epitome of Roki's going to go to the team he wants to go to. And the place that he thinks is best for him versus go for the money or go for something else. Like he gets to choose, and every team goes there. Now there is a caveat. I'm going to say this. Like there's a caveat. It's still international signing pool money, and we can sit back all we want and look and go, oh, every team has over $5 million to give. Depending 5 to 8, whatever's the top team. That's not true. That's not actually accurate because a lot of that money is already committed, and that there are handshake deals as Oak with a lot of these guys down in the Dominican, down in Venezuela, these agents, Buscones down there, and you better not back out on those deals. But all the teams know somebody's gonna be backing out on all those deals because they're gonna sign them. So he might push them to January 15th, which changes the date of when you sign them versus the money this year versus the money next year. But again, there's already handshake deals for next year. Like most teams already have all of their money committed. Most teams have already committed all $7 million to players, or like to a point where, okay, you're going to sign a bunch of guys that are, $20,000-$50,000 guys, or whatever, $10,000 guys. But somebody's going to be backing out on all those deals, and you are going to see a mad dash for a couple of 15-year-olds like crazy.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's not exactly, a new thing, though. The same thing happened with Shohei Ohtani. But now that we've had that experience with Shohei, everybody's going crazy because they're like, wow, look how well that worked out for the Angels. They paid nothing. We have to go after this guy and get him no matter what. So it's really interesting what's going on with that Roki Sasaki situation.
I think it's a little different. I'm going to say why, and you know this, and this is just, it's a little different. One, he was the true unicorn, the hitter and the pitcher, and he made it clear that he wanted to hit. So that immediately knocked a bunch of teams out because like a lot of teams thought he wasn't a major league hitter, right? They're like major league pitcher, but he has to do both, and we don't want him to do both. So that knocked a lot of teams out. Then he also made it pretty clear, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you are the Ohtani expert, hence the jersey right over your beautiful hair. He wanted to be West Coast.
Yes.
And so that knocked out 3/4 of Major League Baseball right there, depending on what you call West Coast, how far west you get. So there's some other things there where Roki, I haven't heard anything about what or where he wants to go, other than the fact that at one point he's going to sit down with Ohtani and Yamamoto and be by the World Series champions and be told this might be a decent place for you. Like, right, like how anybody competes with that. Plus they have a very long history of developing Japanese talent, and being incredibly open and marketable for the Japanese player.
I agree. I think that's going to help big. I really hope the Mariners are calling Ichiro and saying, "Ichiballs, please talk to our boy. We really want him over here."
Sasaki, Jojima, Ichiro. I'm going to the well. Every Japanese old owner, I am bringing in everybody.
Yeah, and I'm sure the Yankees are calling Matsui. I'm sure the Mets are calling Sengai and Kodai Senga, and they're just trying to get every little edge that they can get.
Oh, do you think Godzilla's involved? Do you think the Yankees got Godzilla in there?
I'm pretty sure. I know he still does a lot of stuff with the Yankees.
Yeah. I don't remember what hit I gave up to him. I gave up like his 1,000th RBI or something. Oh, nice. And I remember walking out, and I think his interpreter like thanked me, and I'm like, dude, like didn't mean to, but you're welcome. It was something. I don't know if it was like the most RBIs for a Japanese-born player or like some record. It was something. But I guarantee you somebody can Google this and figure it out way better than I can. But I got thanked by his interpreter, and I'm like,
speaking of your exploits, I got a Google a notification yesterday. Yesterday was the anniversary of your trade that involved LaTroy, I believe.
No? It wouldn't have been that one. Would have been, let me think. Not to LaTroy, because LaTroy was mid-year. LaTroy was like mid-year. I was sitting in Norwich, Connecticut, just waking up with my girlfriend in my arms, and I get a phone call. You got traded from the Giants to the Cubs, which adds another dynamic when now I got to send my girlfriend somehow, get her home, and then I got to go. So you had a whole lot else going on. Not my current wife, but my girlfriend at the time.
I'm trying to actually
probably Red Sox. It was probably White Sox. Oh, it might have been Cubs to the White Sox or White Sox to the Red Sox.
Yes, it was the Cubs and White Sox deal.
Yes.
Yep.
So that was a big one for me, because what pissed me off, I had a great year, incredible second half with the Cubs. Incredible second half. I was pitching, I was dealing. I'm like, dude, on the north side, and I'm a Cubby for life. I grew up a Cubs. I had a bird named Wrigley, and I get traded to the White Sox. And like Lou Piniella, they had just signed Lou Piniella with the Cubs. I'm like, dude, this is happening. Like things are changing, for everything Dusty Baker, how amazing Dusty Baker is. It wasn't the right fit. You thought Lou Piniella was coming in and the world's changing. We are go, go, go. And then they're like, yeah, by the way, you're going to the White Sox. I'm like, what? Why would you do this to me? That was the moment baseball became business. And that hurt.
Interesting. Hey, speaking of baseball business, what do you make of all this baseball business going on with Jordan Montgomery and the fighting with the owner in Arizona?
Ken Kendrick, absolute. He was on a mission. The owner of the Diamondbacks was on an absolute mission to get Jordan Montgomery to not sign his player option. So obviously last offseason, Jordan Montgomery was a huge signing for the Diamondbacks. He went to the Rangers. They won the World Series. He was a monster piece of the Rangers' run to the World Series title. And he was a big piece in the free agency. The Diamondbacks get him. They signed him late. It was super late in spring, and I think it kind of might have been after the first of the year, or might have at the end of spring training, and just did not have the year right. Did not have the year he wanted. Struggled. oblique issues. He had a bunch of, a couple of injuries here and there. But man, they were trying to not get him to sign that contract, and it didn't work. It didn't work, and it was just the dumbest thing you're ever going to do. I'm going to say this straightforward. Owners, unless you have something positive to say about players, don't say anything about players. You can say whatever you want about management. You can say whatever you want about the people you directly choose and hire and that sort of stuff. The problem with players, man, like you burn bridges. You burn bridges with agents. You burn bridges with players. Like you can anger a lot of other players. Like, why would I ever go to you when you're calling out players like this? When you're basically saying this is the dumbest signing we've ever had. There was times where Steinbrenner did it, right? And then the guys were not wanting to go to New York. They had to build that from within. And then Steinbrenner started being a lot more quiet. Then free agents started coming, right? Notice when free agents started really going back to New York was when Steinbrenner started shutting up a little bit. And the only ones he talked bad about were his own developed players. And they're like Jeter, basically. He just wrote Jeter, but Jeter to him he was the captain. He got to ride Jeter. I think this is the saltiest great move by Jordan. And here's the problem. The Jordan's going to pitch well. He's going to be good. Like, he's going to be healthy. He's going to, again, we cross my fingers and all this stuff. Like, I want him to be healthy. And he's going to be a good pitcher. Like, he has historically been an incredibly great pitcher and been really good. There might have just been something about last year. Who knows what he was fighting all year. But he was not, you look at his numbers, nothing close to himself. I think this was actually a great deal. Like, Jordan's like, dude, I'll take my $22 million. I'm not going to get more right now. But then he's going to, I don't know what the opt-out is, but it's probably out next year too. And he'll opt out, and then he'll sign a long-term deal after he shoves. Yep.
The question is, which team will he be pitching for? Because I don't think there's any chance he's staying in Arizona right now.
I think there is. I think
really?
I think there's a big difference between owner and management, and I think they can sit there and Tony Lovello, incredible manager, incredible leader of men, and they've got a great staff. And I think they can handle it. I think they can sit there and smooth it out and say, hey, just focus on us, focus on your day-to-day. And the owner was a dick. But we believe in you. Like, let him be a dick. But still, like, come out here and pitch. What were you saying?
I was just saying, if you're Montgomery, I'm going out and I'm looking for baseball cards to give the owner because he's got like the biggest baseball card collection of all time.
Yeah, and that's a thing too, is like he beat the Diamondbacks. Like, he beat the Diamondbacks for the World Series. I would send him a little World Series ring, a little like World Series like trophy, and be like, dude, like, don't forget, like, this is like, you signed me for a reason. I sucked. I'm gonna make sure you shut your mouth. Yeah, and do it. But that's the thing. At the end of the day, Jordan Montgomery still has a toe of the rubber like 32 times and just shove. And if he doesn't, then I'm like, with the owner, I'm like, you kind of have a point.
How important was him missing spring training last year? Does that really get a pitcher off their game?
You know what it does? What it does is it throws off all your routines, all your prep, all your normal, regular, like, ready to go start stuff. I don't think spring training is like the most important thing in the world, but what happens is you start pressing because spring training starts getting later and later, and then the season starts. A lot of guys are like, oh, these guys weren't ready. You know what they probably weren't ready for is just wearing cleats every day and running around and doing this and standing around forever. That's half of spring training, is just getting on your feet in the cleats in the field, standing around for batting practice, just doing the monotonous part of the job. But he was throwing every day. He was lifting weights every day. He was running every day. Everything to be ready for pitching. And honestly, 90% of the time, I think it's just injuries happen. And It just, if he was there day one of spring training, you would never have said it. But he wasn't, even though he was doing all the same work, doing bullpens, doing live BPs. He just didn't have the game experience. They gave him the game experience to get ready. I don't know. I think they overplay the not there for spring training stuff. The only players I think that really matters for are batters, and then the getting to the 6th, 7th inning. But nowadays you can handle that. Let a guy start in the minor leagues and throw him on the DL at the beginning of the year, start in the minor leagues, and then build up. So you can still build up. That's the only thing I see is different.
It's interesting that you think that he's going to stay there, because there are a lot of people out there saying that they're going to be desperate to get rid of him, and they're willing to eat some of that contract to get rid of him because it's a toxic environment right now, because the owner hates him. And I, as a fan of a rival team, I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. If they're looking to shed payroll and get him out of there, maybe I can get him on the dirt cheap. But it doesn't sound like you think that's going to happen. But yeah, if I'm any other team in baseball and I can get him for, even his salary, and I don't have to give up any major prospects, I would take him on in a heartbeat.
I think one of the big things is the Diamondbacks don't have the type of money to eat. I think that's what's going to end up. Like we hear a lot of rumors and stuff, and I think they're going to sit out there and shop him. But it's going to take somebody to take his $22 million. I don't, or so like to a point where if it's $5 or $10 million, maybe that the Diamondbacks eat, they don't have the type of money to sit there and spend. There was a point there where they weren't allowing coaches to take players out to dinners. Like they didn't have that type of money. Like that's how lean it got for a little bit. And I know Kendrick has plenty of money, but he wasn't putting it into the baseball. And so to me, I just sit there and go, the dude has like a career 4 ERA and he had a 6.2, and that's with the 6.2 in there. And it's a 4 ERA. Like he was a 3.9 in New York, a 3.3 in St. Louis, a 2.7 in Texas. Like he was getting better as he was getting older. And then he had a 6.23. Like none of the numbers line up. Everything is completely different. His whip went up by 0.6. Nothing adds up, and nothing points to a trend. It's just like a big giant blip in the screen. I'd say, to me, I think it's actually a steal that the Diamondbacks have him back, and I think they need to mend the relationship.
Absolutely.
But moving on to a pitcher I don't think they have any problem with a relationship with, Mr. Paul Skenes, Livvy Dunn's boyfriend. At some point, Livvy Dunn's fiance or husband, unfortunately.
She'll leave him at some point. They all do.
Oh, no, Livvy Dunn is just perfect. Livvy Dunn's the thing. Livvy Dunn, again, I guess he would actually be the man, the myth, the legend, Paul Skenes. The backup quarterback at LSU, just an absolute king stud. But anyways, Topps has come out with one of the coolest. Is it Topps?
Yeah, it's a Topps Chrome update. And I actually have 2 boxes of this at my house waiting for me to rip it open.
Oh. Can we do that live?
Yeah, we can do it live. I'll do it live next time we're on.
Would we be able to see the disappointment in your face when you don't get it?
No, because somebody actually did the math. In order to get that card, they said that you'd have to average spending about $250,000 worth of Topps products in order to guarantee that you could get one of those one-of-ones. So the way it works is every baseball player, they put that little MLB debut patch on their jersey for their first game. Topps/Fanatics takes that jersey, takes the patch off, and embeds it into a card that is a one-of-one. And then the said rookie signs the card. So there's only one of those MLB debut signed Paul Skenes patch cards out there. And the Pirates are getting ahead of it and trying to bribe whoever finds that card with a nice little package of stuff.
Yes, and that package, and I've got it all pulled up here. That package includes a pair of season tickets. How about this? Okay, we're going to start here. A pair of season tickets right behind home plate for the next 30 years. James, is that enough for you to give up that card?
No, because I don't live anywhere near Pittsburgh. That's the question that I had.
Okay. Does you get to play? They upped it up a little bit more. You get to play in a softball game for you and 29 of your closest friends at PNC Park, along with other Pirates alumni. And all those alumni get to act as coaches. James, season tickets and softball game in PNC Park. Is that enough for you?
No, but again, my answer is going to be no on everything because I'm not in Pittsburgh.
That's not fun, James. You're supposed to play along with the game.
No, but it makes a big difference. If somebody finds it and they live in New York, what do they have to offer somebody else?
Okay, that's not fun, James. Play along with the game. We can get there.
Okay, fine. No, that's not enough. What else do you got, Dave?
A private tour of Pirate Spring Training. Pirate City, by the way, in case you didn't know what that was called. So Pirate Spring Training and a chance to take batting practice and warm up with the team. James, is that enough to give up the card?
No, not quite enough.
Okay, they upped it up with one more thing. You get a meet and greet with Paul Skenes himself, 2 autographed jerseys, plus other air quote unique experiences yet to be determined. James, is that enough for you to give up the card?
Ooh, that's getting close. I don't know, but it might not be enough for me.
I say from a cash value standpoint, it's probably pretty close, right? The season tickets for right behind home plate for 30 years.
That's about 250 grand.
Yeah, like we're getting there. Like the money wise, they've definitely put the money on the table. This is the type of stuff like the Ohtani baseball when it hits the stands. Like this should be the type of offer people should be getting. Like a meet and greet is personal. Like this is the type of offer we should be seeing from other stuff. But James, they upped it one more, man.
Okay.
One more. The lady herself jumped right on board and says, not only do you get all that, but you get to hang out with me. James.
Ooh, now we're talking.
Livvy Dunn is like showing up and putting her seat right next to her on the line. I'm doing a deal, James.
You see, now you're going to get me in trouble because would that mean? I mean, is there any chance that Livvy Dunn's going home with me? Like, does she like me over Paul Skenes? Do I get to steal her away?
It's the stripper. It's the stripper. Like, no matter how much she tells you you're amazing.
Yeah.
You're not going.
Yeah. No,
not happening.
Again, truthfully, I wouldn't do it. They're saying that card, and in fact, Ken Golden, who you've probably seen on that Golden Collectibles show that they do on Netflix, he's already put, a dollar amount that they're saying it's going to be close to $2 million, the value of that card, which is absolutely absurd for a guy who hasn't spent the whole year in the majors. I would sell the card.
Here's the thing. It's going to be absolutely absurd, $2 million. And I know it's happening tonight. I don't think he's going to be rookie of the year. So it's pretty amazing. Now, don't get me wrong, incredible talent. But guys, I love this deal, but I'm selling the card.
Yeah,
I love this deal. In all reality, I love the deal. I think it's amazing. I think what they're doing it right. But I think what this is, Major League Baseball or the Pirates. Let me put it this way: the Pirates, if Topps has been involved with this, is absolute genius. Mm-hmm. Because what they're doing is they're firing up a fan base to get involved to find this card. Right, yeah. That entire fan base, an entire Pittsburgh Pirates family, if you want to put it, is saying, bring it to the family, get involved, buy Topps, buy this, go get this card, and we will hook you up.
Man, now I feel bad that I said yes, that I would rip them open on the air, because I'm going to go home tonight and I'm going to want to rip open these boxes. I may have to buy more. But yeah, it's a very cool card. It's a very cool thing. And I agree with you. This is what baseball teams should be doing prior to any sort of event. If somebody knew that, hey, if I give the Ohtani ball back, I'm going to get, Dodgers season tickets behind home plate for 30 years. I'm going to meet Ohtani. I'm going to get a ball. I'm going to get this. I'm going to get that. Then it would have been a lot easier than, what the Dodgers did was basically try to hold this person hostage and no, you're not leaving until you give us the ball. Well, no, that's garbage. Give them, I give a lot of credit to the Pirates for getting ahead of this and really doing their job trying to get the baseball card. The only problem that I have is how many times have we seen a phenom pitcher flame out after 2 or 3 years, a la Matt Harvey? So there's going to be some guy who got this card who could have sold it for a couple of $1 million.
Go look right up to your right, James.
DeGrom? Well,
right? Like DeGrom makes his major league debut in 2024 by how many years? And his arm surgeries later, and we're sitting there going, we hope.
Yeah, we don't really want him. I mean, you were with the Mets in 2012 or 2013?
That's a great question. 2013, James.
2013. So, and he wasn't there. So he came in 2014, Jacob DeGrom. You didn't play with Jake.
Yeah. No, I missed him. I missed him all along. Missed him away. We heard a lot of stories of some guy down in the minor leagues in AA pitching pretty good named Thor or something. And so that's the Syndergaard guy was pretty good.
Yep.
But yeah.
Yeah. So you think about it, that was 10 years ago. And look what has happened to his career between then and now, which is why I'm the guy who said the Mets should trade Matt Harvey after the World Series, because you would never get his value higher. I'll say it again. I would still trade Paul Skenes right now if I had the opportunity. If someone's going to give me granted, I can't get Juan Soto, but a Juan Soto-like hitter that I know I can keep in my lineup for the next 15 years, I would take him over Paul Skenes any day of the week.
Adley Rutschman.
No, but I would trade him for Gunnar Henderson in a heartbeat.
You wouldn't take Adley.
No, because I'm afraid of catchers.
It's interesting. There's a couple catchers out there that careers that just captains and all that stuff. But it's interesting. But at the end of the day,
okay, would you trade Paul Skenes right now for Bobby Witt Jr.?
Yeah.
Would you trade him for Gunnar Henderson?
Yes.
Would you trade him? Here's one that I don't know. That would be pretty shaky to me. Would you trade him for Ellie Del Cruz?
Ooh. I like this, and yes. If I can guarantee, if I can do this, if I did this, if I can take Ellie De La Cruz and guarantee a long-term contract negotiation, like a one-on-one negotiation with him, and if he signs it, we do the deal. Yeah, I think I'd do it.
Because it's so fickle being a pitcher these days. Yeah. So that's why I'm wondering.
Even the dude right above you, like for all intents and purposes, how amazing he is. The dude's had 2 Tommy Johns in his major league career already, and most likely. Like everybody, let's not forget about this. Every time you have a Tommy John, your likelihood or the amount of years where you're healthy with that elbow go down.
Yeah. So again, all these people who are completely hyping up Paul Skenes, and it is completely warranted. He's an amazing pitcher so far. But take a look at what happened to Dwight Gooden.
Okay. Right? Dwight Gooden, amazing. I think you always have this incredible idea of like, I would do it too, even though I'm a pitcher, and I think pitching is obviously so valuable in this game. I'm taking my lineup and I'm finding free agent pitchers. It is the same to me as being an NFL team that has a bunch of holes on defense, or you have the number 1 pick and you take Caleb Williams type of thing. Don't take the quarterback. Go find a Kirk Cousins. Dude, go find me a free agent that's just going to manage ball games, be just fine. I can find 5 starters, a la the Royals. Dude, look at the Royals, what they did this year. None of those guys are just coming in this year where you're just like, oh, my God, this staff young, so super talented. Even Brady Singer, who was super like pro prospect at one time, had some really rough times. Like, no one was taking him anymore. Like, you wouldn't get a whole lot for him until this year because he did so well. But they put together a staff of just free, just got to throw. We're going to throw a little this and throw a little that. We're just going to throw it together. Boom. And you look at this. Like, the Cy Young winner this year in the National League was a free agent signed, and nobody wanted him.
Listen, I said it 10 years ago. I established a rule 10 years ago when you and I started doing this. God help us, it's been that long, or 8 years ago, whatever it was. What did I say from the very beginning? If you're building a team, draft hitters. Look at the Dodgers this year. Why did they win? Because of their amazing pitching? Absolutely not. They won because they had the deepest lineup. And like you said, you can always get a pitcher at the deadline. You can always get that middle of the row to upper middle of the row pitcher for a decent amount. You don't need to go out and do what the Mets did a couple of years ago and get Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer because it very rarely works out. Get your guy at the trade deadline if you need that other pitching and go out and have the best lineup top to bottom. That's how you win in modern baseball.
No, without a doubt. And when you look at teams like when we're sitting there, like we're talking about the Baltimore Orioles and the type of talent they have, the type of young absolute talent, like a Jackson Holiday, like they could have demanded so much for him long before he was ever a major league hitter. They could have gotten the world for him, and so that's the value of those. And I think true number 1 starting pitcher talent. Still, teams look at that and go, how long? Like, how long will I have him? How long is he going to be healthy? Is he going to hit? I don't know. And, is it going to, what I mean by, is it going to hit? Is it going to be the guy you want it to be?
Right.
Talent in AAA, you generally know they're going to be able to hit in the big leagues or at least be solid.
straight up right now, no contract extensions, no talks, no nothing. You are the GM of the Pirates. I'm the GM of Baltimore. I say I'm going to give you Jackson Holiday right now. You give me Paul Skenes. Are you doing it?
No.
Really? Why not?
I've gotten a taste of Jackson. I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
I've gotten the taste. I've gotten this, and I'm sitting there going, okay, we have a dude that's going to get Cy Young votes, like a lot of Cy Young votes, and we got a dude who's going to be number 2, if not be the NL Rookie of the Year, versus a guy that came up, sucked, came up again, and kind of sucked. So
right. Mike Trout sucked his first time.
Yes, but not a second time.
Okay, fair enough.
And that's, to me, that's the difference. Like, I needed to see growth. I needed to see another hitter. I needed to see a dude that wasn't just like, okay, like that's the one I needed to see. I didn't, and I'll say this too, he didn't have enough at bats in the minor leagues. He didn't have enough at bats. When he went to AAA and absolutely crushed it for the first 2 weeks of the season. And I'm like, and look at my tweets, look at my posts. And I said, this is AAA baseball in April. Dude, and he went to Charlotte, which is the number 1 hitting ballpark in the freaking world, and they had 6 games in a row in Charlotte. 6. It's not like it wasn't a little series here and a little series there. 6
right.
games in the hottest ballpark to ever hit, and I don't care what the temperature is. I can kick a ball out of there. And it's just they're winning 30-1. Like the amount of runs, they're averaging like 15 runs a game. Well, 2 weeks later, the team is averaging like 5.
Right.
And Jackson Holiday's in the big leagues. And then he comes back down, and he didn't really have that impact that he had before. Mm-hmm. That, to me, was a telltale sign of, okay, there's growing pains here. That's why. And for me, that's why I'm out.
Okay, fair enough.
I love that. I love just going to the Shark Tank. And for that reason, I'm out. Talk about overhyped. One of the most overhyped fights of all time, which is so scary that we're even falling for this stuff. Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. It's so frustrating to even talk about this. Sorry, Logan. I said Jake. Logan Paul.
No, it was Jake Paul that fought. Logan Paul is his brother that's in the WWE.
Oh.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know. A Paul that made his life by being an absolute dork on YouTube.
Like we are right now?
Yes, basically exactly what we're doing right now. So we sat there and spent my life watching this fight. James, what is your takeaway from the greatest fight of all time?
You mean the women's fight that preceded it? Because that might be the greatest fight of all time.
A legit good fight.
Yeah, that was a great fight, and it made me like these 2-minute rounds. But the fact that Mike Tyson just couldn't move and couldn't stand up and didn't charge. But, yeah, we were bamboozled. He was a 58, 59-year-old man, whatever age he is. And
we weren't bamboozled. We just had it in our head. Iron Mike Tyson. We were remembering what it looked like in 1990. And we're like, oh, my God, Mike Tyson's in the ring. And we're like, oh. And you kind of forgot that when he came out of prison that he sucked and that he wasn't good. In his last 3 fights, he was fighting average fighters and sucked and got his butt kicked by average fighters 24 years ago.
Yeah.
And now we're wondering, like, what happened? We're bamboozled. No, we're not. We're just idiots.
Yeah, we're just stupid. By the way,
I won a lot. I won good money.
Oh, good for you. You mentioned him going to prison. I don't remember them mentioning that at all on Netflix, which, by the way, Netflix, you did a terrible, terrible freaking job with this. The announcing was awful. Get Rosie Perez the hell away from a microphone. What does she know about boxing? The constant streaming problems was terrible. If you're going to do this, do it right. For Christ's sake, this isn't your first rodeo. You've done a lot of live stuff before. But as far as the fight, it was really sad. I do believe that Jake Paul protected Tyson and didn't try to hurt him, and good for Jake for doing that. Mike didn't land a single decent shot the whole time. It was sad to see.
There's a couple early on, and I think people saw that and think it's rigged because of that. Because he got a couple cleans in there, and I'm hearing online like a whole bunch of people saying it's rigged because early the first 2 rounds he was like attacking and getting clean, and he was extending some of his punches and getting him a little clean. where you're like, okay, like there's opportunities there to double up on that or like to keep pressing, and he would have caused some damage. Do you think it was rigged?
No, I don't buy that at all. I don't buy that because guess what? If it was rigged, they would have figured out a way to make it look better so they can get a second payday.
And that to me is the difference. Like, and I don't think, I'm not saying Mike Tyson can't rig a fight. I think in his brain doesn't work like that. There are certain players, certain people, certain athletes that you can't tell them to turn it on or turn it off.
Right.
You don't get to tell Mike Tyson. You don't put those gloves on and get him in a ring and say, no. Now I want you to try, and then not. He doesn't. His brain doesn't work like that. He's a bull. Once you unleash him, it's there. You're getting whatever you're going to get. You're a bull. He's going to see red. He's going to fight like, dude, he bit a guy's ear off because he was losing his goddamn mind in the ring. And so you get what you get. Now, what we got was a 60-year-old man fighting who ran out of energy and who tried to fight the way he used to fight, which was in tight, compact, bringing something to him and getting close and throwing quick little fight punches here and there. In a game with a dude that didn't want anything to do with being close to him, ran around, punched, got out, and was fighting such an unorthodox style that I don't even think Mike knew what to do with it 24 years after he was a fighter.
The best part of that whole presentation was Sidney Thomas. I'm in love.
Right. So I think pretty much the entire internet is broken now.
Oh yeah.
I think that's why Netflix broke, is because of her.
And if you don't know who we're talking about, the pretty blonde girl who was the ring girl. Oh my God.
Pretty is not the correct word, James.
Okay, I'm not going to say what I'm thinking, so I'm going to stick with pretty.
Hot. You see, like he can't even handle it.
Yeah, she's an absolute smoke show. Sydney, if you're looking, I am available.
Sydney, if you're looking, I am not available. Well, figure it out.
Andrea wouldn't even say no. She'd be like, yeah, why not?
Andrea's like, I get it. Like, enjoy yourself. Yeah, well, you brought up Rosie Perez, and this definitely I want to bring up. Like, you're telling me that's your go-to, and I have trouble with this. A couple things. One, it's in Dallas. Okay, cool. I get it. Jerry's World, great spot for a fight. They blocked out the sun, which is so great. But like Max Kellerman, he is one of my favorite people to ever listen to boxing. I don't know if they could have gotten him because there's contracts here. People like understand like all of these really good people like have contracts, have locked in deals. Like you're not gonna get a Joe Rogan. You're not gonna get like a Max Kellerman probably because he probably has an HBO locked up deal. I know he was with ESPN for a little bit, but there's probably these deals that they're all locked in. But you're telling me that there's no lower level boxing circuit guy that you would out there and you're scouting, like you're going to put on a massive, no matter what, no matter how much of a faux fight it is, you're getting a massive audience of people. And this is your opportunity to get somebody to introduce them to the world. You did with, what's her name? Stacey Thomas?
What's that?
Who was the girl?
Oh, does she have a name? Sydney Thomas.
Sydney Thomas. Like you introduced her to the world. You're telling me you couldn't have introduced a new voice to fighting,
or if you're
you go with Rosie Perez.
Even then, if you're going to go the celebrity route, at least get a great announcer. You know what? Put Howard Stern on. He would have done a much better job than Rosie Perez.
No, he wouldn't.
Well, I'm being serious.
I'm good.
Anybody would have been better than
Howard Stern. He's sellout. I'm good. But I get what you're saying. I know what you're trying to say. And honestly, like Howard Stern 20 years ago would have been incredible. Howard Stern now is trash. But
I agree with you.
There's a lot of voices out there.
There's just a ton of people out there who can do that job. Get one of the guys from WFAN, or get Bart Scott, get Tiki Barber, get anybody, but somebody who doesn't know anything about boxing, anybody who's stuttering all over her words. I mean, it was bad.
And you know what? And I would say this, and I'm totally for this. And so here's this. What does Rosie Perez bring you? Does she bring any viewers? No. Does she change the dynamic of your fight? No. So if you have somebody that's not gonna, does she enhance the fight? No. So if you've got a fight that is 100,000 people watching it live, and then hell, 6.6 million were watching Antonio Brown's like live streaming in the stadium. The 6.6 million were watching his streaming, let alone how many people were watching Netflix. So this is a chance, and you got the internet star of internet stars, right? That's how he became famous, and Mike Tyson's become an internet star too because of what he's done on Hangover and stuff like that. Find an internet star, find the next YouTube person, and get him there, them on, and being the announcer.
Oh, I just thought of it. Get Zach Galifianakis. He's taking on Mike Tyson punch.
Right? Like that would have been incredible to have him as a guest person on there. There's what I'm just saying. I don't necessarily have an answer for you right now. We could do a whole show on this. Your one job was to showcase this fight to the world, and we got B to D level like announcers who
and
have
we got to see
nothing
Tyson's
to do with
ass.
it. And what?
And we got to see Tyson's ass.
Right. Like, right? Was that on purpose? Now that one, I'm like,
oh yeah, they panned down.
You got a camera in there and showing that, not knowing what they're about to show.
No, they panned down.
Oh yeah, that was 100%. And on that, we are going to end this show.
We're going to end on Mike's rear end.
End on Mike's rear end, right where that fight basically began, because I saw that immediately and grabbed my phone, rewound, and tried to videotape that. And the moment I was hitting onto X, it was already on, and I was like, "Damn it, I missed it!" And that's a better tagline I was going to say, anyways. But thank you for listening to the show. If you're on podcast, thank you for watching. If you're on Facebook, on YouTube, Raul, thank you for throwing up on there. Let's go Mets. And a special guest to our guest, Jim Duquette. You'll find him on XM Radio as an analyst on there, and former Mets GM. As always, get on and leave comments, leave likes. Go out there, spread the word about Man Cave Sports and closers in particular, and just keep the love out there. Keep love us a little bit more. Love on us.
Remember, everybody love everybody.
Yes, and thank you very much. I hope you guys enjoyed the show.